Condemnation of Israel is growing after its attack on the political leaders of Hamas right here in Doha. The attack killed 5 members of the group and a Qatari security services worker, but not the Hamas targets. Now, leaders from neighbouring Gulf countries are visiting Doha in a show of support after the attack. Although US President Donald Trump says he is very unhappy about the attack, he stopped short of condemning it. He said he'll give a full statement later on Wednesday. Right, well, let's speak to Osama bin Javaid, who's also live for us here in the capital, Doha. Osama, so you did go to the scene yesterday of that attack. Since then, we've had some very strong words from Qatar about this happening on its own soil, but also a show of solidarity from some of the neighbouring countries.
Absolutely, Sarah. So not surprising, an unequivocal, strong statement from the Prime Minister of Qatar, calling this state terrorism by the State of Israel, calling this a treacherous act and saying that this is against all international norms. That is something that he said and has been echoed by world leaders all over the world, not just from the Western Hemisphere, but from regional countries as well. There's a long list of leaders who've spoken to the Qatari Emir since the incident, and now some of them have started to arrive in Doha. We've just seen a visit concluded by the President of the United Arab Emirates. We're expecting the Crown Prince of Jordan sometime later today, and it is expected that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, will also be arriving towards Doha sometime tomorrow. So it just feels that all of these states, which were talking about normalization with Israel just a few months ago, just over 2 years ago, are now looking at this as an attack on one of their closest allies, neighbors, and partners. This attack in the Gulf Cooperation Council has sent reverberations across the region, and Qataris have been quite insistent that it is not going to be a response that comes from Qatar itself, but it's going to be a regional response. There's a committee that has been formed looking at all legal aspects of how and why, how Qatar is going to take Israel to the international arena and figure out exactly how it is going to respond. And the Qatari Prime Minister has said that Qatar reserves the right to respond. As you mentioned about the location, it is being treated as a crime scene, as what the Qataris have been calling it, a violation, flagrant violation of international law and norms. And just to give you context of that area, it is a residential part of Qatar. Lots of diplomatic activities happen there because there's embassies, diplomatic staff live there, but it is also home to thousands of people who pick and drop their children from those schools nearby.
This is the moment when Israel struck a residential area full of schools and embassies in Qatar. The country is a US ally and a mediator for peace, but was hit in an assassination attempt by Israel on Hamas leaders. The Palestinian resistance group's delegation gathered to discuss the latest ceasefire proposal from the Trump administration. A member of Hamas's political bureau told Al Jazeera that the leadership of the group survived the cowardly assassination attempt. Chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya's son and his office manager are among the dead. He also reiterated that Hamas was meeting with a positive outlook on the American ceasefire proposal. He said the group holds the American administration responsible for the attack.
Praise be to God, the leadership of the movement has survived this cowardly attempt, and the leadership is now safe and secure, while at the same time stressing that the blood of the leadership is no different from the blood of any Palestinian child, woman or man sacrificed for their homeland and for this cause.
The Qatari Foreign Ministry condemned what it calls the cowardly Israeli attack targeting a residential building of Hamas's political bureau. Qatar views it as a flagrant violation of its sovereignty and international law.
The attack happened at 3:46. The first call we had from an American official was at 3:56, which is 10 minutes after the attack. And after that, President Trump has spoken with His Highness the Emir. He condemned the attack, and the U.S. government position that they have no knowledge about the attack nor any coordination about it until it started to happen.
Israel's attack killed a member of the internal security force at the targeted site, and a number of security personnel were also injured. There's been mounting international condemnation after the Israeli strike. Saudi Arabia said the strikes were a brutal Israeli aggression and flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty with dire consequences for regional stability. Turkey's foreign ministry said targeting the Hamas negotiating team in Doha proves Israel seeks war, not peace, and shows its expansionist policies. France says the attack on Qatar is unacceptable, whatever the reason may be. And one of Israel's closest allies, Germany, says the attack jeopardizes all our efforts to secure the hostages' release.
Let's speak to Abdullah Baabood. He is a Gulf Affairs specialist and professor at Waseda University in Tokyo, joining us live now from Muscat in Oman. Thank you very much for speaking to Al Jazeera. Now, the attack that happened yesterday was unprecedented here in Qatar. If you look back at this war, it was a Palestinian-Israeli conflict with Qatar being a mediator. The nature of this seems to have changed after that attack, surely.
Absolutely. And how could one imagine that one was going to attack the mediator who's trying to seek peace, release of the hostages, and stop the war and the destruction and the atrocities and the genocide? This is unprecedented, as you call it, and it is totally unfathomable in a way that a country would attack a sovereign state that's tried to create a peaceful coexistence between it and the Palestinians, and also discussing the Trump proposal that was seeking for end of this conflict, an end of the war, and the release of the hostages. It is totally ununderstandable. No one can even imagine that any person with the right mind would do something like this.
And this, of course, has triggered a very high-level diplomacy here in the region. We have the Emirati president. He's already arrived. We're expecting the Saudis and the Jordanians to meet here in Qatar. How do you think regional allies here will act moving forward? Because they must be incredibly concerned about this escalation in as you said, in an unprecedented way. I mean, many not seeing this coming, really.
Absolutely. It wasn't, no one saw it coming. It was not expected. And it was the last thing to expect when, you kill the mediator, or you try and attack the mediator and try to kill the people who are trying to make peace. I think the region is under enormous test at the moment, because Qatar is a peaceful country that has been working very hard, not only on making peace and stability and security in Gaza, but also across the world, around the world. We've seen so many conflicts that Qatar has tried to mediate in and has been successful in many of them. And it's been working very hard to resolve this issue on Gaza, release the hostages, and make an end to this bloody war that has been going on for the last 2 years, and save lives. And Qatar is also a member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which has a security arrangement, and it has a collective security arrangement. It's also part of the Arab League that has a collective security arrangement.
It's very interesting you bring up that collaboration there, because I was just about to say, where do they come into this? There are agreements, but at this point, Israel has the US backing. You have the Qataris saying that they are going to go down what seems to be the legal or diplomatic means, that they have the right to respond. What sort of alliance could we see, if at all, with the GCC and regional countries moving forward? Many have accused Israel of expansionism, this mentality of trying to spread itself across the region and change forever, really, the dynamics of the region.
I think what we are seeing is a policy of hubris that is within the Israeli government, and the current Israeli government in particular, that it's not just precluded to that. It's always been the intention of Israel to expand its influence, expand its territorial ambitions. And we've seen, the new map that has been presented to us with what they call the Greater Israel. But anyway, what is also interesting is that Qatar hosts one of the most important bases for the US. Qatar is also a member, a security partner of the US outside NATO. Qatar is also a signatory to the Istanbul initiative that has come out of NATO. And therefore, it has some connections with the United States, very strong connections, and also with NATO members, as well as being part of the Gulf Cooperation Council and also of the Arab League. And therefore, this country, this peaceful country that is seeking peace and trying to to resolve conflict through negotiation, to be attacked, and for its sovereignty to be undermined, I think this calls for a very drastic action against this hubris activities and of Netanyahu's government and Israel at large. And I think this is the right time for the whole region to stand against this, because this is unprecedented, and it can lead to some very drastic instability in the region, and that's the last thing we want to have in this region, and the region must stand up to it.
Of course, and there will be many questions asked certainly by the Qataris today, as well as those regional meetings that are due to take place. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Mr. Abdullah Baabood.
Thank you very much for having me.
Don't miss out the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.